All right. In Matthew chapter 16, we see Jesus initially struggling when his disciples don't understand what he's referring to when he talks about the yeast of the Pharisees. And it confuses them and frustrates them because they've spent enough time with him. They've seen what he does. He can't believe that they're still misunderstanding them the way he does. But then Simon Peter seems to get it later in chapter 16 when he says, Jesus, you're the Christ. And Jesus is proud of him, and he says, you only know that because God revealed that to you. And I'm sure he's thinking they're finally getting it. But then he begins to talk about the fact that he's going to die. I'm sure he's trying to prepare them. I'm sure he knows that when the moment comes, they really won't be able to comprehend or understand what's happening. And so he's doing his best to let them know ahead of time what's going to happen. And then Simon Peter, the one who had just said, you're the Christ, and Jesus was so proud of how much he understood, is the first one, or at least the one that the Bible tells us about, that says, no, Lord, you won't die. No, don't think like that. Don't talk like that, right? And we all remember Jesus's rebuke to Peter because it's so famous that he says, get behind me, Satan, right? And we all kind of remember that because it's shocking. But I think what's even more important is what Jesus says right after that. He says, get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the things of God, but the things of men. And that made me think about how I want to be for my friends. I don't want to be a stumbling block to them. I don't want to be reminding them of what men think about and what we think about in our natural minds and what this earth has for us. I want to try to be someone who's thinking the thoughts of God toward them. So when I have a friend that's worried or nervous or scared, I don't want to be the person that says, oh, no, I'm sure it'll be fine. Don't worry like that. You're good. I'm sure God will take care of you, because that's easy comfort. And sometimes it's false comfort. I think it's better to say, I don't know what's coming next, but I know God already knows. And I know that if what's coming next is hard, and if it's suffering, and if it requires sacrifice, I know you're up for it. And I know that God will take care of you in the midst of suffering. And I know he'll be there with you if you struggle. And I know that if he's called you to hard things, he'll make you able to do those hard things. So I'd like to be that kind of friend, but it's hard because it's easy to just say, oh, no, like Peter did. No, that won't happen. I'm sure you'll be fine. But that's us thinking the way that men think and not thinking the way that God thinks. And Jesus kind of reiterates this idea that suffering is part of God's will when he says, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will find it. What good will it be for a man who gains the whole world, yet forfeits his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? I want to be the kind of friend that encourages the people I'm around to walk into suffering if God asks them to, not to try to gain more things for themselves on earth, not to try to find more comfort and to find more leisure, but to do whatever it takes to follow God in a way that when they get to heaven, they can be proud of. And that goes right into, in verse 27, it says, for the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person according to what he has done. And so I hope that that's encouraging in a different kind of way that says, don't offer each other easy comfort that costs you nothing and that doesn't assure anything, but instead encourage each other to suffer the way Jesus suffered, to endure what God asks us to endure, and to sacrifice for the sake of the gospel. Read chapter 17 tomorrow, and we'll look through this, and let me know if something else struck you in Matthew chapter 16 in the comments below.